Well, last week I suggested that the US election result was possibly a mortal blow to the mainstream news media. That despite their significant bias and sometimes downright lying in their coverage, which I showed you in the episode, Trump still won. But more significantly, the media lost. They lost trust and credibility. But now it's the media turning on itself. And that was especially noticeable last week. So last week, Newstalk ZB's Heather du Plessis-Allan, who does the drive show 4 to 7 p.m, and she used to be a reporter on One News, she went ballistic about the bias of One News and TVNZ's coverage of the hikoi to Parliament. And she had a number of reasons for making that call. Now, before we hear her missive, let me show you a couple of things so you'll fully understand what Heather is referring to. Firstly, the New Zealand Herald reported this. One of TVNZ's most senior executives and the person considered most likely to fill the broadcaster's proposed new supercharged news and content executive position has taken annual leave this week to attend and support the North Island hikoi. TVNZ Chief Content Officer Nevak Rogers' presence in the personal capacity at the hikoi, as well as several posts on her Instagram social media account, has caused consternation amongst some staff, but TVNZ has defended her position. Just 3 months ago, the state broadcaster was championing the inclusion, or the importance, of the impartiality of its newsroom, releasing an editorial policy to enhance its transparency and inspiring trust in news. And now this content officer was even posting comments on Instagram as she hikoied across the Harbour Bridge. How appropriate is it that the exec who could be heading up the news and content team is posting from the hikoi with her kids, said one TVNZ source. I understand it's her kaupapa and her personal rights to be there, but posting it seems a bit over the line, given that responsibility and influence she may have in the future heading up the TVNZ newsroom. It just seems at odds with everything I have seen from TV execs and certainly news heads trying to preserve that exterior of neutrality. Another source said, not a good look. So this is the head boss of One News, and potentially the chief executive of news and content, promoting a clear political stance. So much for impartiality and inspiring trust in the news. But then, just to prove that it had filtered down, there was this interview from Breakfast on One. Now, I'm not sure why anybody is expecting balance and fairness on that program, but David Seymour, ACT leader, obviously was, but called them out for their coverage. It's worth a watch.
So the controversial Treaty Principles Bill will be debated in Parliament. The bill, which seeks to redefine our founding document, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, has sparked what could be the largest mobilisation this country's seen in modern history. A 9-day hikoi will begin in Northland on Sunday. Organisers say events throughout the march aim to share how Te Tiriti uplifts all New Zealanders. The hikoi will culminate in a mass gathering on Parliament grounds on November 10. Well, ACT leader David Seymour is behind the bill. He joins us in studio now. Morena.
Morena.
Before we even get to that, can we talk about the timing of the bill? Why was it changed?
Well, before we even get to that, can we start with your introduction? Because it is not a divisive bill. It is some people's opinion that it's a divisive bill. Your job is to reflect the views of all New Zealanders, not to take sides. Second of all, as a matter of fact, it does not change the Treaty of Waitangi at all. It changes the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, which was set down by Parliament in 1975. Now, if we can just start with a bit of fairness and a few facts, then I'm very happy to look at your other questions.
So there have been
yeah, right. Bit of fairness and a few facts. Now, I actually posted that to our social media just to get people's comments. 30,000 views, more than 130 reposts on X. And the vast majority of reposts and comments were opposing the media's approach to this. A similar clip had more than 185,000 views on YouTube And as with my post, the comments weren't about which side of the debate people were on. It was about the bias of the media and its coverage. You know, we may not be in agreement on the treaty bill, but we are in agreement that the media are biased and are letting down viewers in not providing both sides of the debate. And just one more example. Now, once again, on TVNZ and on Breakfast. And I'm showing you these so that when I play Heather's missive, it'll put it all in context. Now, have a watch. If this reporter was interviewing me about my views on abortion, marriage, euthanasia, or abusing children with puberty blockers, you can guarantee that the questions would be aggressive, challenging, demanding evidence, pushing back with counter-arguments. You would expect that, wouldn't you? I don't think I've ever had a patsy interview on mainstream media, ever. So I'm just going to play you some of the questions from this interview when they cross live to the reporter. And watch, these are really tough questions.
Crowds gathered before dawn in the far north this morning to kick off what could be the biggest hikoi in decades. Te Karere reporter Harata Brown is in Te Kao and joins us now this morning. Morena, Harata.
Morena, I'm not quite in Te Kao, but I'm here at Te Reinga where the hikoi has just left. And I thought I'd start us off first with a bit of a haka there, Eru. Kato he au ki te mana nāna nei whakataure ka rekatia te tiriti o Waitangi. Anā, joining me now beside me is our spokesperson for Toitu Te Tiriti Hikoi. Eru, tell us, what does it mean to finally kick this off? We've just had a beautiful karakia ceremony. I guess, how are you feeling being the spokesperson for such a big and mobilising event?
Oh, beautiful.
So 9 days, this is day one, the first hour. So tell us, day one, what's happening? What's going to go down in history books as we speak today? Now, we all know that with protest comes waiata, waiata protest. So I'm going to ask you, Eru Kapakingi, can you give us your Toitu Te Tiriti anthem in 30 seconds?
Kia o e tupu e rea mō ngā rao toa, arahina tō iwi e. Tō ngā kaukuinga tanga o tupuna, tō waira ki te ariki. Because you're magic people to me. You're magic people to me. Hold your head up high, let your voices fly. I'm proud to be Māori.
Kia ora te whānau, Eru Kapakingi, spokesperson for Toitu Te Tiriti Hikoi, here from Te Reinga. Back to you, Jenny May.
Oh, that was a lovely love fest. You know, I've never had an interviewer on TVNZ or any other media ask me to sing a song with them. But I'm going to be prepared next time, or be told how significant I was and how significant the work of Family First is. You know, generally you expect the media to be the fourth estate, you know, asking some hard questions to challenge whatever the issue. This McBLOG is not specifically about the hikoi as such. It's about media coverage of what are clearly contentious issues where there is a variety of opinions amongst the public. So now you have the background. Let's go back to Newstalk ZB and Heather Plessis-Allan and her missive at TVNZ. It's a well-deserved missive. Have a listen.
Listen, good luck to TVNZ, eh? Good luck to TVNZ trying to convince anyone that they're unbiased, given what's just happened with them in the last week. So I just played you the clip of the breakfast reporter singing with the organiser of the hikoi, which I think any right-minded person would interpret as an endorsement of the hikoi, which I think should earn her some serious trouble if TVNZ takes perceptions of bias seriously. But actually what is much more serious for them is that the woman who was tipped to become the top news boss at TVNZ has just been outed today for taking personal leave to go on the hikoi. And the reason we know this is because she loves a social media post and she's put it up on her Instagram, so just flaunted it for everyone to see. Now, obviously people are entitled to private political views even if they are news bosses, but if you are a news boss or about to become the news boss, you should be smart enough to keep that private. emphasis on private, especially if your organisation is trying to pretend that it's unbiased, which is what TVNZ is trying to do very hard at the moment in the face of falling public trust in media. Just a few weeks ago, TVNZ self-published its editorial guidelines for journalists, and the point of that was to tell us that they take impartiality seriously and that they are impartial. Well, that's just been massively undermined by finding out that the woman who will be in charge of all of the journalists actually doesn't really like the current government at all. So good luck. You can corral those journalists into a neutral space all you like, but if the lady who is their boss has very strong views about the current government, so strong that she wants to go on a protest against them, I think you've got a problem with perception of bias. Now, the important thing here about TVNZ to understand is that it pretends it's impartial, right? It is not. That is the important thing here. Nobody would mind if the editor of the spin-off turned up at the hikoi, because the spin-off wears its colours on its sleeve. We know what they're about, and they own it. They just are completely honest about it. TVNZ, though, is trying to convince us that they are neutral. And the other important thing here also is that TVNZ is the publicly owned broadcaster on television, right? So that also means there are standards that we expect from them that are different to what everybody else is subjected to. Now, TVNZ, in order to convince us, because clearly they want us to believe that they are impartial, in order to convince us that they are impartial and that they demand impartiality from the people who work within their newsroom and in their editorial team, they would have to, A, not give that woman the news job, and I doubt that's going to happen, or B, they would have to discipline that woman and discipline the reporter for what happened on television and then make that public. Do you think that's going to happen? No. Me neither. So good luck to TVNZ trying to convince us from here on in that they're impartial.
Ouch. When the media are turning on their own, this is not going to be pretty. But Heather is spot on. Yep, good luck to TVNZ. Ironically, the number of presenters on that breakfast program is being halved because of the self-destruction of the news media. But more importantly, best wishes to the excellent staff and reporters, the good ones, who are having to find new careers because the likes of breakfast presenters and One News editorial staff can't figure out that viewers are sick of being told what to think, rather than being respected and simply presented both sides so that they can make the decision for themselves. Of course, let me just put a little note in here to conclude. Newstalk ZB is not off the hook. Their newsroom is no better than TVNZ's. Remember their coverage of Trump in the lead up to the election? There were lots of examples, but one was where Trump showed some humanity by halting a political rally so that sick people could be tended to, twice, and then turned it into a fun event of music and signing Trump caps. But the media mockers at Newstalk ZB pounced on it and totally tried to fool you.
Donald Trump has stopped taking questions at his latest town hall in Pennsylvania and swayed on stage to music for 39 minutes, also telling supporters to vote for him in January. Despite the election.
Yep, you can hear the sarcasm in the voice, can't you? Their written version said Trump's impromptu dance performance at Pennsylvania Town Hall raises questions and mockery. Of course, failing to put it in context in what actually happened. Oh, and actually, one other example just over the weekend. This time, the taxpayer-funded Radio New Zealand. Mihingarangi Forbes is a co-host of Radio New Zealand's Saturday mornings and hosts the Radio New Zealand podcast Mata. And Mata has received close to $1 million in additional funding from New Zealand On Air. Well, guess what? She has joined the hikoi, posing for photos with protest leaders and, get this, using official RNZ social media channels to post in support. Question. You're paying for coverage of political issues like this. Is this the coverage you want or deserve? You see, no news media outlet is off the hook. They're all being called out. The real question is, how will they respond? Will they acknowledge your concerns and change their ways and build their trust and credibility? Or will they simply ignore you and keep pushing their own narrative? Sadly, I think it will be the latter.